Welcome. My name is Peter Hafiz, and I'm the Chief Data Scientist at Ravenpack. As a company, Ravenpack has been around for almost 20 years. This has allowed us to observe firsthand how the asset management industry has transformed into becoming more technology and data-driven. In particular, we have observed how the financial industry has become more heavily reliant on natural language processing, which is our forte, in order to consume all of the textual content that is being generated, both internally and externally to the firm. While innovation is often embraced first within alpha generation, for instance, with the increased consumption of alternative data, today we are seeing massive disruption also taking place within risk management. As part of my presentation today, I'm going to talk about 3 trends that we have come across in the industry when we speak to clients about how they can unlock the value of their textual content. Those trends are the evolution towards data mosaics of both structured and unstructured content, the ability to curate data sets on the fly that compound streams from both proprietary and public data to connect the dots, and finally, identifying actionable networks of data correlation to understand how the world is connected and how that can influence risk. In addition, I'm also going to provide a few practical use cases that highlight the power of understanding risk through the data mosaic. The centralization of data allows banks and asset managers to build a source of truth that can be leveraged across the entire organization as a way of democratizing content. We're seeing huge investments going into the build out of large-scale data lake infrastructures, or so-called data mosaics, leveraging both structured and unstructured data originated from internal and external sources. Since more than 80% of data available to firms comes unstructured, and most of it in the form of text, natural language processing is key when it comes to extracting information and value from all of this content. This is a huge task, and many firms are working closely with data vendors and technology and service providers opting for a best of breed approach to unlock the value of data across the organization. In establishing their data mosaics, the most successful investment firms are integrating comprehensive data strategies that are targeting, for instance, particular key risk indicators that they wish to track. This helps them prioritize which data sets to onboard and connect. Naturally, firms are prioritizing data sets that either support high impact KRIs or that are flexible enough to cover a wide range of risk factors that they are exposed to as a firm. These KRIs could include anything from financial risk or people risk to more operational risks, depending on the nature of their business. It all starts with establishing a set of KRIs and then building out the data mosaic to support these. This stands in sharp contrast to how alternative data, for instance, has been onboarded within alpha generation, where an elaborate backtest has to show a clear value add and the ability of the dataset to pay back its annual subscription fee in a relatively short amount of time. When thinking about data from a risk standpoint, it needs to be considered an insurance policy. You need to be able to address not only the day-to-day, but also the less frequent but high impact events that may occur in the future. This not only requires targeted data sets, but also flexible data sets that allow for on-the-fly insights curation. It's worth highlighting that very few alternative data sources hold the same unique characteristics as news content when it comes to flexibility. It ticks all the boxes. News is delivered in real time, allowing for nowcasting of traditional financial and economic indicators, as well as picking up when disaster strikes. You have global coverage through both local and global newswire services. It covers a variety of topics, including business, economic, political, societal, and environmental events across both companies and global macro. And to top it all off, It comes with deep archives of historical content available for backtesting or training purposes, allowing users to learn from past events. Understanding risk through the data mosaic has several benefits. It allows us to look for abnormalities in data that can turn into emerging topics and market narratives, driving future risk across an entire portfolio or single names. Recent narratives have included Brexit, Black Lives Matter, and Me Too, all influencing business risk one way or another. Topic modeling and keyword extraction can be powerful tools for clustering and labeling textual content, supporting the workflow of an internal team of risk analysts trying to identify emerging topics that should be on their radar. When disaster strikes, we want to be able to evaluate quickly what actions we should take to protect our investment portfolios or our business. Such disasters could include real-time controversies like scandals, corruption, or even harassment charges, but also general litigation proceedings or M&A activities. Identifying events as they unfold in real time based on fixed taxonomies allow for highly actionable alerts that can be easily backtested, leading to the potential of implementing automated decision rules, something which is much harder to achieve with standard unsupervised topic modeling. Situations may also arise, generating a need for on-the-fly curation of event topics to track their evolution on a step-forward basis. This may interact directly with the emergent topics or the general event detection approach just described. The idea is that we might want to create more targeted insights to address an immediate need or identified risk that has potentially gone from an unknown to just being a known, allowing us to train our model to track it going forward. With the outbreak of the coronavirus in 2020, we saw strong interest in understanding the influence of the pandemic as it was spreading across the globe. To showcase the power of our data platform and to make our contribution to the world, in a matter of days, we were able to produce and launch a coronavirus monitor that we made freely available, allowing our clients to track the spreading of panic and its influence on sentiment across countries, sectors, and companies. Beyond investors, the academic community has shown strong interest in better understanding the market influence of the coronavirus pandemic. Using the Ravenpack panic and sentiment indices, researchers have shown the usefulness of such information when it comes to predicting equity returns across global markets, even taking into consideration the number of deaths or confirmed coronavirus cases. Being able to quickly generate valuable insights to investors and risk managers, we believe shows the real power of the data mosaic. In the case of Trump's trade wars with China, that have been a theme over the last couple of years, clients have been interested in learning about what companies and sectors were being affected by these dynamics and how they changed over time. One way of extracting such information is to look at news that mentions Trump and the US as entities in the same articles as China. Then linking such news to a curated trade war topic, setting up an ongoing data feed of companies and sectors that are referenced in the same news articles, thus getting a sense for their risk exposure to the trade war topic. Such efforts can be easily generalized to capture geopolitical risk in real time across the globe in multiple languages, generating dashboards and alerts that make it possible for users to stay on top of particular themes as they play out in the news and influence portfolio risk. Being able to fully leverage the data mosaic to understand how the world is connected through network graphs is another major trend that we are seeing. This capability was already used in my previous examples looking at geopolitical risk and tracking the coronavirus. However, it also extends into many other use cases. In particular, we are seeing a lot of interest from clients who wish to track so-called news conventions across their various equity investment portfolios. The core advantage of tracking relationships using news is that it allows you to move beyond static sector information and stale filings data. Instead, we get a real-time update on companies signing new business deals, partnership or joint venture agreements, or engaging in litigation proceedings and M&A activities. In addition, we can get a sense for the strength of relationships by tracking their relative volumes. Tracking company networks can also provide interesting insights related to new business initiatives. For instance, looking at Google's company network back in 2007, the tech giant was only linked to a single company in the automobile industry. 10 years later, however, Google was highly connected in the industry with close to 20 connections, clearly showing that Google had entered the arena. Looking at it a little closer, we were able to learn that this was driven by a new battleground of integrating the technology into autonomous vehicles, thus potentially changing the risk profile of the company and of the sector as a whole. Expanding your entity network to include not just companies, but also commodities and places can be useful for associating macro risks into single companies. For instance, looking at company conventions with cocoa or cocoa beans, we naturally pick up companies like Hershey's, Barry Callebaut, Mondelez, Mars, Ferrero, Nestle, Cargill, and Olam International, all companies operating in the chocolate and snack food business, either upstream or downstream. But we're also naturally picking up places such as the Ivory Coast, Brazil, Cameroon, Nigeria, and Ghana, all cocoa producing countries. This allows us to systematically track potential supply chain risk for said companies in case any disruptive events like natural disasters or war and conflict take place in one or more of these cocoa producing countries. Cocoa is just an example, but you can see how it works. We can build those networks for any of the 300,000 entities that we monitor: companies, people, products and services, places, organizations, commodities, and so on. Insights can be tailored to particular use cases based on the need of the client. Identifying these connections have to be done through the network graph if you want to achieve scale. It simply can't be done manually. When disaster strikes, we want to be able to react quickly to evaluate our risk exposure across our portfolio. Looking at the historical impact of similar events can help us decide how to handle the situation from a risk management perspective. In this particular case, we track the average performance of fraud and scandal events across the top 3,000 companies in the US according to their market capitalization. It is clear that such stocks take a large intraday hit to their stock price, followed by a continuation for several days. However, what is also interesting is that there seems to be a clear overreaction by the market, leading to a price reversal over the subsequent months. Obviously, this could influence how we want to deal with such events when they happen. Fraud and scandal events are obviously different and may not behave exactly as the average event. To get a full understanding of its severity and associated risks, you may need to understand its influence across entire networks and track all players involved. Here we have mapped out the network related to Volkswagen's Dieselgate scandal back in 2015. While Volkswagen was at the center of the scandal, other automobile companies were clearly also involved, which became apparent as the scandal unfolded in front of the world. Germany's Volkswagen, Audi, BMW, Porsche, and Daimler were found to have colluded about emissions, while French Renault had to recall more than 15,000 vehicles for emission tests in the wake of the scandal. General Motors were also facing lawsuits due to the use of similar emission cheating tech, while Mazda had to delay their US launch of their diesel cars due to further scrutiny. The associated network that we created also included people. As an example, the CEO of Volkswagen, Martin Winterkorn, naturally got linked to the scandal and allegedly missed internal warning signs already back in 2014. And perhaps surprisingly, Hollywood actor Leonardo DiCaprio also got linked. Apparently, the Dieselgate scandal is going to turn into a blockbuster movie. While alternative data has been heavily utilized over the last decade on the alpha generation side, there is a massive potential in taking advantage of the so-called data mosaic also in risk, allowing for real-time updates of internal KRIs. In prioritizing what data sources to onboard, firms are focusing on data that support high-impact KRIs, or that are considered flexible enough to support a wide range of risk factors, or are valuable during black swan events. To take full advantage of the data mosaic, firms need to think about technology that can address the detection of emerging topics within or across different sources. They need to be able to track events as they unfold within a fixed taxonomy that offers easy backtesting. Finally, they need to be able to curate new data insights on the fly. For instance, relying on interactive learning to address special situations like black swans or unknown unknowns, as they become known themes driving risk narratives in the market. Thank you very much for listening in.
This is Raven Pack.